Chosen one. There is a sacred power flowing through you that the world cannot see but constantly tries to diminish. This isn't just spiritual theory, it's divine reality. Your spiritual energy, your life force, your connection to the source. These aren't abstract concepts, but the very essence of your power as someone marked by the divine. In the realm where spiritual battles are fought silently, your energy becomes the most coveted prize. The enemy doesn't attack with obvious weapons, but through subtle drains on your divine radiance, and perhaps none are more powerful, more magnetic, more potentially destructive than the misuse of sacred sexual energy. This creative force, when aligned with divine purpose, becomes unstoppable. It manifests, it builds, it transforms. But when leaked through misalignment, it leaves you feeling empty, confused, and disconnected from your highest calling. You feel it, don't you? Those moments after certain interactions when something seems off, when clarity fades, when your spiritual sensitivity dulls, when your prayers feel like they're hitting a ceiling. These aren't random spiritual fluctuations. They're symptoms of divine energy leaks. When light joins with darkness, confusion follows. Your spiritual discernment becomes clouded, not because you lack faith, but because unaddressed energy leaks are creating spiritual static in your connection to the divine. What you may not realize is that your struggles aren't a sign of weakness. They're proportionate to your calling. The greater your divine assignment, the more strategic the attacks on your energy field become. This is why many chosen vessels feel the weight of temptation more intensely. It's not punishment, it's recognition of your spiritual potential. Today, we're going to identify 8 specific divine energy leaks that may be blocking your chosen path. But this isn't a message of condemnation. It's an invitation to restoration, to reclaiming what was always yours, to sealing these leaks and allowing your true spiritual radiance to shine unhindered. If you feel a spiritual resonance with this message, if something deep within recognizes truth, type 777 in the comments to seal this divine appointment. This isn't just content. It's a calling back to your authentic power. Before we begin this journey of spiritual restoration, make sure you're subscribed to this channel if spiritual awakening and divine empowerment are part of your path. You're not here by accident. You've been divinely guided to this moment of recognition. Let's unveil these hidden energy leaks and restore your chosen power. Section 1. The Misalignment Trap. Chosen one. Let's begin with perhaps the most common energy leak, draining your divine power, physical intimacy with souls you are not spiritually aligned with. This isn't about judgment. It's about energy. When you connect physically with someone, your spirit doesn't recognize as aligned with your divine purpose. You create a dangerous soul conflict that silently erodes your spiritual clarity. On the surface, your body may say yes. There might be attraction chemistry, even compatibility in the worldly sense. But deep within your spirit is whispering a firm and quiet no. That still small voice that feels unsettled even as everything looks right on paper. That's your divine discernment trying to protect your energy field. This dissonance between physical desire and spiritual intuition creates an internal war. It's subtle at first. You might feel slightly off-center, emotionally cloudy, unable to hear divine guidance as clearly. But over time, that disharmony drains your spiritual vitality, like a slow leak in a sacred vessel. You wake up feeling empty, disconnected, more confused than before. Your connection to divine guidance becomes staticky, unclear. Your prayers seem to bounce back unanswered. Your sense of purpose starts to waver, And you wonder why God feels distant when you've been so faithful in other areas. Not everyone who shares your bed is meant to share your destiny. This truth may feel uncomfortable, but ignoring it only prolongs the energy drain that's keeping you from your fullest expression of power. Chosen one. Understand this fundamental spiritual law. Every physical connection is a spiritual exchange. The intimate union of bodies was designed as sacred covenant ground, not casual connection. You don't just share your body during these moments. You share your light, your essence, your energetic field, your spiritual DNA. Those who have felt the heaviness after intimacy with the wrong person know this truth without needing explanation. That weight isn't just emotional regret. It's spiritual recognition of energy that's been misdirected, divine power that's been leaked. Some of you have been stuck in relationships where your spirit is literally shrinking just to make your body feel something, anything. You've rationalized the connection with, but they're a good person, or they believe in God too. All while your spiritual gifts have been slowly dimming your prophetic clarity, fading your divine confidence, eroding. This misalignment doesn't just affect your spiritual sensitivity, it impacts your very identity. You start questioning your worth, your purpose, your discernment. The enemy uses these moments of doubt to whisper that maybe you weren't chosen, after all, that your spiritual gifts were just your imagination. But remember this, your divine assignment hasn't changed. Your spiritual DNA remains intact. Your calling is still waiting. The only thing that's changed is your energetic clarity, and that can be restored. For those currently entangled in misaligned connections, hear this truth. Separation may feel like loss, but it's actually reclamation, taking back the spiritual territory you've unknowingly surrendered. The temporary discomfort of walking away pales in comparison to the permanent compromise of your divine purpose. Never allow temporary pleasure to rob you of your eternal power, peace, and divine calling. Your destiny requires alignment in every area, especially the intimate spaces where energy is most powerfully exchanged. Ask yourself this question and sit with it honestly. Is my physical life aligned with my spiritual truth? The answer may be uncomfortable, but the clarity it brings will illuminate your next steps toward reclaiming your full spiritual power. Remember, chosen one. You weren't selected for divine purpose because you're perfect. You were chosen because your light, when fully activated and uncompromised, has the power to transform the world around you. Protect that light. Guard that power. Align every aspect of your life, including intimate connections with the divine blueprint written over your life. Your greatest power will only be accessed in complete alignment. Every misaligned connection isn't just a mistake. It's a divine energy leak that must be sealed for your full restoration. Section 2. The synthetic connection. Chosen one. Let us now address a powerful energy leak that many spiritually gifted individuals struggle with silently, the trap of synthetic connection that drains your divine power. At first glance, consuming artificial stimulation through pornography and explicit content may appear to be a harmless and private indulgence, an escape, a release, a way to pass time when loneliness creeps in. But make no mistake, it is one of the most insidious and spiritually damaging traps the enemy uses against chosen vessels. Why does the enemy target you here so strategically? Because it attacks the mind, the eyes, the imagination, all sacred gateways to your soul. These are the very portals through which divine inspiration, spiritual vision, and heavenly wisdom flow. When these gateways become contaminated with synthetic imagery, Your spiritual receptors become dulled to authentic, divine transmission. What feeds your eyes eventually fuels your spirit. This principle cannot be overstated. The images you allow into your mental temple leave energetic imprints that continue affecting your spiritual sensitivity long after viewing. Your brain, designed to receive divine downloads, becomes rewired to seek synthetic stimulation instead of authentic spiritual connection. Over time, this energy leak manifests in subtle but devastating ways. You may notice your prayer life feeling mechanical rather than vibrant. Your spiritual discernment becomes clouded when you need it most. The same voice that once clearly guided your path now seems distant, muffled by the static of artificial desires. Many chosen ones experience a gradual deadening of spiritual senses, the very senses God needs sharpened for your divine assignment. You find yourself needing more intense stimulation to feel anything at all, whether in relationships or in spiritual experiences. This desensitization isn't just psychological. It's a spiritual energy drain that leaves you operating at a fraction of your divine capacity. The isolation that follows is by design. Shame becomes a prison, convincing you that you're the only spiritual person struggling in this area. You put on a mask of holiness, while inwardly feeling disconnected from the very God you represent to others. This double life creates an energetic split that prevents your full spiritual authority from manifesting. What you must understand is that your imagination is not just a mental faculty, it's a spiritual technology given to chosen vessels for divine creativity, prophetic insight, and supernatural problem-solving. When this sacred gift becomes polluted with synthetic imagery, you lose access to the very creative power needed to fulfill your calling. Some of you have been wondering why your spiritual gifts aren't operating at the level they once did, why your dreams aren't as prophetic, your prayers not as powerful, your discernment not as sharp. Could it be that this hidden energy leak has been quietly draining the very power needed for divine manifestation? Chosen one, this isn't about condemnation. It's about liberation. Your struggle doesn't disqualify you from your calling. In fact, the intensity of your battle often reveals the magnitude of your assignment. The enemy wouldn't fight so hard for your attention if your focus wasn't so threatening to darkness. The path to restoration begins with recognition. Acknowledge the energy drain. Understand that each click, each scene, each moment spent in synthetic connection feeds spiritual distraction and starves divine clarity. Your destiny demands focus. Your purpose requires purity, not perfect purity. None of us achieve that, but progressive purification of the gateways to your soul. Ask yourself this question with complete honesty. Where am I seeking synthetic fulfillment instead of authentic spiritual connection? The answer may reveal patterns of escape during times when divine discomfort was actually trying to birth something new in you. Remember, you weren't made for artificial stimulation. You were created for divine elevation, and the very energy being leaked through synthetic connection is the exact power needed for your spiritual ascension. Today can mark the beginning of your energetic reclamation, not through shame, but through recognition of your true spiritual design. Your eyes were made to see glory. Your mind was made to imagine the impossible becoming possible. Your spirit was designed to connect with the divine in ways that no synthetic experience could ever replicate. Let this truth become your liberation. You are too spiritually significant to settle for synthetic connection when authentic divine power awaits your full attention. Section 3. The Emotional Bandage. Chosen one, we now must confront perhaps the most misunderstood energy leak using physical intimacy as a bandage for emotional wounds that require divine healing. Sexual energy is not a substitute for inner restoration, nor is it a reliable escape from emotional pain. Yet many chosen vessels fall into this dangerous pattern, using physical connection to temporarily numb their internal wounds. Heartbreak, rejection, abandonment, loneliness, or even deep-seated trauma from your past. The pattern is subtle, but devastating. In moments of emotional vulnerability, the comfort of physical touch offers a powerful but fleeting sense of connection. It might provide a temporary feeling of being desired, valued, or close to another human being. For those brief moments, the pain seems distant, manageable. But once the moment passes, the emptiness grows louder. You're left feeling more fragmented, more confused, and further away from your true healing. The wound hasn't been addressed. It's been covered with a bandage that was never designed to heal it. Why does this particular energy leak drain your spiritual power so severely? Because it creates a dependency on external sources for internal healing. Your spirit knows that true restoration comes from divine presence, not human pleasure. When you consistently override this spiritual knowledge, you create an energetic contradiction that drains your spiritual clarity. Using people as painkillers only increases your spiritual tolerance until nothing human can numb what only the divine can heal. This truth may be uncomfortable, but recognizing it is essential for your complete restoration. Many chosen ones find themselves caught in cycles of emotional intimacy, followed by spiritual heaviness. The pattern becomes predictable. Emotional pain surfaces intimacy, provides temporary relief. Spiritual disconnection follows. Shame intensifies the original pain, and the cycle repeats each time, requiring more intimacy to produce the same numbing effect. What's happening energetically is profound. Your body, soul, and spirit were designed to operate in harmony. When you use physical connection to mask soul wounds, you create dissonance in your entire being. Your body might feel momentary pleasure, but your spirit recognizes the misalignment and responds with heaviness, brain fog, and emotional confusion. Even more concerning is how this pattern affects your divine assignment. Unhealed wounds that are repeatedly covered rather than cleansed become spiritual blind spots, areas where the enemy can consistently attack your calling without you recognizing the source. These wounds, turned bandages, become the very places where your spiritual discernment is weakest. And there's another cost few discuss. By using others as emotional band-aids, you risk wounding them in the process. You create cycles of dysfunction and spiritual entanglement that can last for years, even decades. Energy exchanges that were never divinely ordained become spiritual complications that drain not just your power, but theirs as well. Chosen one, your healing is sacred. It requires courage, not covering. It demands stillness, not stimulation. It needs divine restoration, not distraction. The very pain you've been trying to numb through physical connection may be the precise area God wants to heal as part of your calling. Some of the most powerful spiritual vessels carry the deepest wounds, not because they're being punished, but because their healing journey becomes part of their testimony and spiritual authority. Your wound, when divinely healed, becomes a wellspring of compassion, wisdom, and authentic connection with others walking similar paths. Ask yourself this honest question: what pain am I trying to numb instead of bringing before the divine for true healing? The answer may reveal why certain emotional patterns keep cycling through your life despite your spiritual growth in other areas. Remember this powerful truth: don't bleed on people who didn't cut you. Your unhealed wounds are not the responsibility of your intimate partners to bandage. Sit with your pain. Understand it. Bring it before God, and allow the healing to be real, pure, and complete. When you stop using physical intimacy as an emotional painkiller, you'll find that your spiritual sensitivity increases dramatically. The very energy that was being leaked through misaligned connections becomes available for divine purpose, prophetic insight, and authentic spiritual power. Your chosen status isn't determined by your wounds. It's confirmed by your willingness to allow divine healing in the places where temporary solutions have failed. This is not just emotional health, it's spiritual reclamation of your full power. Section 4. The Validation Void. Chosen one. We must now address a subtle but devastating energy leak that has diminished the power of many divine vessels using intimate connection as a source of validation rather than walking in your divine worth. When you use physical intimacy to feel validated, accepted, or worthy of love, you're essentially handing your spiritual power over to external approval. This creates one of the most persistent energy drains on your divine authority. You begin to associate your value with your desirability, your ability to please others, or your skill in maintaining their attention through physical connection. What starts as a search for affirmation gradually transforms into a dangerous spiritual dependency. Intimacy becomes less about sacred connection and more about performance, a way to prove your worth through pleasure rather than presence. The validation void widens with each encounter, requiring more frequent affirmation to fill what only divine recognition can satisfy. You might start to believe that your presence alone isn't enough, that you must give something physical to receive love, attention, or loyalty. This belief system creates an energetic imbalance where you're constantly giving away your power and receiving temporary validation that never truly fills your spirit. When you seek human approval through physical means, you trade eternal worth for momentary validation. This exchange diminishes your spiritual authority by placing your value in constantly shifting human opinion rather than unchanging divine truth. The enemy understands this vulnerability in chosen vessels. Many who carry significant spiritual assignments have wounds related to rejection, abandonment, or feelings of being unseen. These precise wounds become the entry points where the validation void begins, first as a whisper of insecurity, then as a pattern of seeking affirmation through physical means. What makes this energy leak particularly destructive is how it creates spiritual confusion. You start to mistake lust for love, attention for affection, and physical presence for authentic connection. The spiritual discernment that should guide your relationships becomes clouded by the immediate gratification of external validation. Many chosen ones find themselves caught in cycles of relationships that follow the same pattern: initial attraction, physical connection, temporary validation, growing emptiness, relationship breakdown, and then repeating the cycle with someone new, always seeking the validation that remains elusive. This pattern doesn't just affect your romantic relationships, it infiltrates your entire spiritual identity. If your worth depends on human validation, then your spiritual confidence, prophetic boldness, and divine authority will fluctuate based on others' approval rather than remaining anchored in your unchanging status as divinely chosen. Chosen one. Hear this truth with your spirit, not just your mind. Your worth isn't tied to your body, your desirability, or your ability to please others. It's anchored in your identity as a divine creation, specifically designed for extraordinary purpose. God validated you before anyone ever touched you. Your worth was established before you ever sought affirmation through intimacy. The validation you seek through physical connection will never give your soul what it truly desires: recognition of your inherent spiritual significance. Using sex to fill spiritual emptiness only expands the void, creating an insatiable hunger that no human connection can satisfy. Ask yourself this revealing question: where am I giving my power away by seeking validation through physical means rather than standing in my divine worth? The answer may uncover patterns of people-pleasing, fear of rejection, or core beliefs about your value that need divine realignment. True validation comes from within, from knowing who you are and whose you are. It manifests as an unshakable confidence that doesn't waver based on others' responses to you. This internal validation doesn't mean you don't enjoy affirmation. It means you don't require it to know your worth. The restoration of your full spiritual power requires reclaiming the authority you've surrendered to external validation. As you begin to recognize your inherent divine worth, the energy previously leaked through seeking affirmation becomes available for your spiritual assignment. Don't sell your spirit for attention. Don't trade your divine authority for temporary validation. Preserve your power. Walk in your purpose. Stand firmly in the knowledge that you were chosen not because you earned it through pleasing others, but because your unique spiritual DNA carries a frequency the world desperately needs. Your validation was secured in eternity. Now walk in that truth and watch your spiritual power rise to levels you've never experienced before. Section 5. The Invisible Chains. Chosen One, let us now unveil perhaps the most overlooked spiritual energy drain: the invisible chains of soul ties that continue to bind you long after physical relationships have ended. When a connection ends in the natural realm, the spiritual bond, especially one formed through intimate exchange, can remain deeply entangled across time and space. These invisible soul ties are not just emotional memories or psychological attachments. They are literal energetic cords that continue linking your spirit to past connections. You might recognize these soul ties through unexplainable symptoms in your spiritual life. You feel someone from your past still has an unseen hold on your heart. Their thoughts seem to echo in your mind without invitation. Their emotional states mysteriously influence yours even when you haven't communicated in months or years. You see them in your dreams. You feel inexplicably drained after thinking about them. You find yourself unable to move forward despite your conscious desire for new beginnings. Soul ties are spiritual contracts that remain in effect until intentionally dissolved. This spiritual principle explains why many chosen vessels feel stuck in a spiritual holding pattern despite their prayers, declarations, and sincere desire for advancement. What happens energetically is profound. When intimate exchange occurs, especially repeatedly with the same person, an energetic attachment forms that goes beyond physical connection. This bond creates an open channel between your spiritual energy field and theirs, a channel that doesn't automatically close when the relationship ends. Through this open spiritual channel, several energy leaks can occur. Your thoughts may still flow to them, sending your focused spiritual energy in their direction rather than toward your divine assignment. Their emotional states may drain your spiritual clarity, creating confusion that doesn't originate from your own experience. Their spiritual condition may influence your connection with the divine, creating interference in your prayer life. Prophetic insight and spiritual discernment. Many chosen ones find themselves puzzled by their inability to fully walk in their calling despite significant spiritual growth. They experience unexplainable blocks when attempting to move into new levels of authority. Their prayers seem to hit a ceiling. Their spiritual gifts operate inconsistently. Their peace feels fragile, easily disrupted by thoughts of past connections. These symptoms aren't random spiritual fluctuations. They're evidence of soul ties that continue to drain your divine energy and divide your spiritual focus. This bond can block your blessings, delay your growth, and distort your discernment. You cannot fully step into your future while energetically tethered to the spirits of your past. The divine downloads meant for your next level require clear spiritual channels that remain cluttered by unaddressed soul ties. Chosen ones. Soul ties are real, and they are silent thieves. They rob you of your spiritual clarity, inner peace, and energetic sovereignty. They create divided loyalty in your spirit, even when your mind has moved on. They maintain access to your spiritual territory long after the physical connection has ended. Ask yourself this revealing question: who still holds spiritual territory in my life through unbroken soul ties? The answer may explain why certain names or faces still trigger emotional responses that seem disproportionate to your current reality. The good news is that these invisible chains can be broken through intentional spiritual work. Unlike physical chains that require external force, soul ties must be dissolved from within through prayer, fasting, declaration, and sometimes spiritual counsel. The keys to freedom lie not in pretending these ties don't exist, but in directly addressing their presence and reclaiming your spiritual territory. This reclamation isn't about demonizing past connections or denying meaningful relationships. It's about energetic sovereignty, establishing clear spiritual boundaries that prevent continued drainage of the power needed for your divine assignment. When soul ties are properly dissolved, many chosen ones experience immediate shifts in their spiritual atmosphere. Clarity returns, purpose intensifies, prayers penetrate, prophetic insight sharpens, divine opportunities accelerate. These aren't coincidences. They're evidence of reclaimed spiritual energy now properly flowing toward your divine destiny. You must reclaim your spirit, break the tie, take your energy back, walk boldly into your divine future, fully present, fully whole, fully free. Remember, chosen one. Your past connections served their purpose in your journey. Honor what was meaningful, learn from what was difficult, but refuse to remain spiritually bound to what God has energetically released you from. Your full power awaits your complete liberation. Section 6. The Spiritual Battlefield. Chosen one. We must now address a critical energy leak that transforms your divine vessel into contested territory. The spiritual battlefield created when you connect intimately with someone out of spiritual alignment. They may look good on the outside. They may speak kind words. They may even participate in spiritual activities alongside you. But if their spirit does not align with yours, if their energy pulls you down, instead of lifting you up, the intimate connection becomes a dangerous battlefield where opposing spiritual forces wage war within your very being. The moment you lay down with someone whose spiritual frequency conflicts with your divine assignment, you create an internal war between your higher calling and your human desire. This isn't about religious compatibility or shared beliefs alone. It's about energetic resonance at the soul level. You may feel pleasure or comfort in the moment of connection, but afterward, the spiritual consequences begin to manifest. You feel heavy, unfocused, spiritually foggy. Your joy feels distant. Your purpose seems unclear. Your spiritual gifts operate unpredictably. Your prayer life feels like you're speaking through static rather than clear divine connection. Your body will never override what your spirit discerns. This spiritual principle explains why many chosen vessels experience physical attraction to people their spirit immediately recognizes as misaligned. The body responds to presence while the spirit responds to purpose. When these two responses conflict, your energy becomes the casualties of war. What makes this particular energy leak so devastating is that you're not just exchanging bodies during intimate connection. You're exchanging energy beliefs, spiritual atmospheres, and unseen attachments. When light joins with darkness, even partial darkness confusion inevitably follows. Many chosen ones find themselves in relationships where they feel spiritually smothered, as though their divine light is being dimmed by the very person sharing their bed. Your dreams become less vivid. Your spiritual hunger diminishes. Your bold faith gradually transforms into religious routine. Your divine authority feels muted in precise areas where it once operated powerfully. These symptoms aren't imaginary. They're energetic responses to spiritual misalignment. Your spirit recognizes what your emotions might deny, that the intimate connection is creating spiritual interference rather than spiritual synergy. This battlefield extends beyond the bedroom. It affects your entire spiritual atmosphere. Decisions that once came with clear divine guidance now feel clouded. Opportunities aligned with your purpose suddenly seem complicated. Spiritual discipline becomes increasingly difficult. Divine timing appears disrupted. The enemy understands that connecting you intimately with someone spiritually misaligned creates a persistent energy drain that's difficult to identify and address. Unlike obvious sin that provokes immediate conviction, this battlefield creates subtle spiritual erosion that happens so gradually you might not notice until significant ground has been lost. Chosen one, your body is not a playground for casual connections. It is a temple, sacred ground where divine power is meant to dwell without interference. Don't turn it into a battlefield where conflicting energies and opposing spiritual frequencies wage war for territory that belongs solely to your divine purpose. Ask yourself this penetrating question: is my intimate life creating harmony or war within my spirit? The answer may reveal why certain areas of your divine assignment have struggled to manifest despite your prayers, declarations, and spiritual discipline. You need someone who nourishes your soul, not just excites your flesh. You require connection with those whose spiritual frequency amplifies your divine calling rather than competes with it. You deserve relationship with someone whose presence makes your spirit feel expanded rather than contracted. Protect your spiritual peace. Honor your divine alignment. Remember, it's better to be alone in purpose than entangled in confusion. The temporary discomfort of solitude is far preferable to the permanent compromise of your divine assignment through misaligned connection. When you choose alignment over attraction, purpose over pleasure, and spiritual resonance over physical response, you reclaim the battlefield. Energy previously leaked through spiritual conflict becomes available for divine expression. Clarity returns. Authority increases. Purpose accelerates. This isn't about finding perfection in another person. It's about honoring the perfection of your divine design. Your intimate connections should enhance your spiritual power, not diminish it. They should clarity your purpose, not conflict with it. They should elevate your divine awareness, not erode it. The restoration of your full spiritual power requires reclaiming this sacred battlefield and establishing it as holy ground where only aligned connections are permitted. Your divine assignment depends on this energetic protection. Section 7. The Generational Inheritance. Chosen one, we must now confront a profound truth that many spiritual vessels overlook some of the sexual struggles and energy leaks you face didn't originate with you. They were inherited, passed down through your bloodline, like spiritual DNA that influences your choices, patterns, and struggles without your conscious awareness. Patterns of infidelity, addiction to physical pleasure, emotional unavailability, or toxic intimacy may have been normalized in your family line long before you were born. These aren't just behavioral similarities. They're spiritual inheritances that carry energetic weight across generations. Perhaps your father was unfaithful, creating a pattern of broken trust that echoes in your own relationships. Maybe your mother stayed in a dysfunctional connection, teaching you that love requires compromise of your spiritual well-being. Perhaps your relatives whispered about abuse, but never addressed it, seeding a silence around violation that continues in your own life. And now, unknowingly, you find yourself walking in those same energetic footsteps. The relationship dynamics that frustrated you in your family now manifest in your own intimate life. The cycles you swore you'd never repeat play out in subtle variations of the same spiritual theme. The struggles that seemed unique to you actually follow ancestral patterns with remarkable precision. Trauma travels through bloodlines until someone is brave enough to feel it, name it, and break it. This spiritual principle explains why many chosen vessels face stubborn patterns that resist even the most sincere prayers and declarations. These aren't just habits, they're generational assignments that require intentional disruption. What makes this particular energy leak so powerful is its invisible nature. Unlike personal choices that you can identify and address, generational patterns operate below conscious awareness. They feel natural, familiar, not because they're aligned with your divine design, but because they've been spiritually normalized through repetition across generations. Many chosen ones experience breakthrough in every area except their intimate relationships. They find themselves repeatedly drawn to partners who mirror unhealed family dynamics. They struggle with the same specific temptations, despite significant spiritual growth in other areas. They battle shame around the very issues their parents or grandparents never resolved. These aren't coincidences. They're evidence of generational energy leaks that continue to drain your spiritual power. The enemy understands that keeping you bound by familiar family patterns limits the full expression of your divine assignment. This isn't about blaming your ancestors. It's about recognizing that some battles you fight were initiated long before your birth. The spiritual territories where you struggle most may be the precise areas where your family line has never claimed victory, making your personal breakthrough not just individual healing, but generational liberation. Chosen one. Hear this truth with clarity. You are not here to repeat cycles. You are here to break them. But to do that, you must first become conscious of them. You must have the courage to identify patterns that have become so familiar they feel like your identity rather than your inheritance. Ask yourself this revealing question: what cycles am I called to break in my family line? The answer may illuminate why certain patterns have persisted despite your sincere attempts at transformation. The breaking of generational patterns requires more than individual willpower. It demands spiritual authority, claiming territory in prayer that has been surrendered for generations. It requires courageous honesty, naming patterns that have hidden in family silence. It calls for intentional replacement, establishing new spiritual precedents that future generations will inherit. You must replace secrecy with healing, shame with honesty, and bondage with freedom. This work isn't just personal transformation, it's generational reconciliation that alters your family's spiritual DNA. Your obedience to healing will echo through generations. The energy reclaimed from these generational leaks becomes available not just for your divine assignment, but for your children and your children's children. Don't let your legacy be shaped by old pain. Rise, heal, reclaim your divine narrative. Remember, chosen one. You may not have chosen your inheritance, but you can choose your legacy. Every generational chain broken by your courage becomes a pathway of freedom for those who follow. You are the chain breaker, the pattern interrupter, the cycle ender, the one who says, "It stops with me." This realization isn't a burden, it's an honor. God strategically positioned you at this precise point in your family line because your spiritual DNA carries the potential for liberation that previous generations couldn't access. Your struggles aren't punishment, they're invitation to healing that transcends time. Section 8. The Redemptive Release. Chosen one. We now approach the final and perhaps most transformative energy leak, the spiritual bondage created by carrying the weight of sexual shame and guilt in silence. Many divinely appointed vessels secretly suffer under the crushing weight of past sexual mistakes, abuse, or addictions, yet they never speak of these burdens. They carry these spiritual weights alone, believing the lie that voicing their shame would diminish their calling or disqualify them from divine purpose. This silence becomes one of the most powerful energy leaks, creating a spiritual prison where your true authority remains locked away behind walls of unaddressed guilt. The enemy wants to isolate you in shame, so you never walk into the fullness of your calling. The strategy is simple but devastating. Keep chosen ones bound by secrets. They're too afraid to speak. What remains in darkness cannot be healed by light. This spiritual principle explains why many anointed vessels experience a glass ceiling in their spiritual authority, despite significant gifting. Unaddressed shame creates energetic barriers that prevent full access to divine power. The enemy understands that shame thrives in isolation. When you believe you're the only spiritual person struggling with sexual regret, addiction, or past mistakes, you begin to question your very identity as a chosen vessel. The internal dialogue becomes toxic. If they knew what I've done, they wouldn't see me as spiritual. If God really knew my thoughts, He wouldn't use me. If my secrets were exposed, my ministry would be over. These shame-based lies create one of the most persistent energy drains on your divine authority. The spiritual energy required to maintain secrets, manage appearances, and contain unhealed wounds leaves little power available for your actual assignment. Many chosen ones find themselves living divided lives, presenting a polished spiritual exterior while internally battling condemnation. They minister freedom to others while remaining privately bound. They speak boldly in public while whispering apologies to God in private. They offer healing while their own wounds remain untouched. This divided existence creates spiritual exhaustion that manifests as burnout, inconsistent anointing, fragile faith, and persistent feelings of inadequacy. The very areas where shame remains unaddressed become the precise points where your spiritual authority feels weakest, chosen one. Here is the truth that can liberate your spirit. There is no condemnation in Christ. You are not your past. You are not defined by what happened to you or what you've done. You are not dirty. You are not damaged. You are not disqualified. You are being refined. The very experiences that shame tells you disqualify you from your calling may be the precise areas where your greatest authority will manifest once brought from silence into healing. But to reclaim your power, you must confess it, heal it, and surrender it. This isn't about public exposure. It's about breaking the power of secrecy that feeds shame. For some, this means finding one trustworthy person to hear your story. For others, it means professional counseling alongside spiritual support. For all, it means honest conversation with God about what you've carried alone for too long. Ask yourself this soul-searching question: what am I ready to release today that has drained my energy through silence and shame? The answer may reveal the very key that unlocks your next level of spiritual authority. Beloved chosen one, your sexual energy is divine. When aligned with God, it becomes your creative force, your magnetism, your power to manifest, build, and bless. But when misused or bound by shame, it becomes a leak that empties your spirit day by day. Let today be the day you return to your highest frequency. Let today be the day you choose purity over pleasure, destiny over distraction, and wholeness over hidden shame. Let today be the day you release what was never yours to carry. This redemptive release isn't just about freedom from past mistakes. It's about reclaiming the spiritual energy that shame has stolen. When shame is replaced with divine identity, when secrecy is exchanged for authentic healing, when guilt surrenders to grace, the energy previously consumed by hiding becomes available for your divine assignment. Understand this powerful truth. Your testimony will become your ministry. The very areas where you've struggled most may become the precise points where your greatest authority will manifest. Your healing journey, once complete, becomes a map for others walking similar paths. You are not less because of your past. You are rising because of your surrender. The very experiences that shame tells you disqualify you from your calling may be the precise credentials that qualify you for your divine assignment. Stay pure, stay powerful, stay chosen. The fullness of your authority awaits the complete release of what was never meant to define you. Chosen one, we've journeyed together through the 8 divine energy leaks that may have been secretly diminishing your spiritual power, clouding your vision, and disconnecting you from your highest calling. Let's remember what we've uncovered on this path of restoration: the misalignment trap that drains your power through intimate connections with souls not divinely matched to your purpose, the synthetic connections that rewire your spiritual receptors away from authentic divine transmission, the emotional bandages that cover wounds instead of healing them, the validation void that trades eternal worth for temporary approval. We exposed the invisible chains of soul ties that bind you to past connections, the spiritual battlefield created when misaligned intimacy turns your temple into contested ground, the generational inheritance of patterns passed through your bloodline, and finally the power of redemptive release that transforms shame into testimony. These aren't just concepts, they're spiritual realities affecting your divine energy every single day. But awareness of these leaks is just the beginning. Now comes the sacred work of sealing them one by one through intentional spiritual practice, divine healing, and courageous choices that honor your true identity. Remember this truth. The very energy being leaked through these pathways is the exact power needed for your divine assignment. As you address each leak, you'll find spiritual clarity returning, divine authority increasing, prophetic insight sharpening, purpose accelerating. These aren't distant promises. They're the immediate evidence of reclaimed spiritual power. If this message has stirred something deep within your spirit, if you feel a divine recognition that it's time to seal these energy leaks and step fully into your chosen purpose, Type 777 in the comments section as a declaration of your commitment to spiritual restoration. And if you're walking this path of spiritual awakening, divine empowerment, and authentic transformation, make sure you're subscribed to this channel. We're going deeper together, uncovering truth that liberates, wisdom that transforms, and revelation that empowers your journey. You are not defined by your leaks. You are defined by your light. And that light, when fully activated and uncompromised, has the power to transform not just your life, but the world around you. Stay pure, stay powerful, stay chosen.